So last week we started my dollhouse project, but I hate these doors. They are difficult to put in, and I just don't like the look of it for what I want to go for with this dollhouse. So today I'm going to be redoing these doors and taking you along with me. I did not like the French doors that came with it. I wanted a very overwhelmingly big, powerful door, but I did really like this piece that was popped out from the door hole. So my thought was that I could make an extra thick door by gluing it on with this wood glue I got from Harbor Freight. So I lined up the doors, and then I'm just going to apply a thin layer of glue around the frame so that hopefully I can glue it together. I did switch the door position so that the handles would be covered by the frame. That way I just didn't have to fill more areas later. So this was a little bit of a thick layer, and then I spread it out to make it a little bit thinner, and I did have to scrape some off of the frame. I really like this glue. It seemed to stick pretty well, and it was a fairly affordable option. I believe it was $3 at Harbor Freight for that very big bottle, which was absolutely wonderful. And it is very easy to clean up with just some Q-tip for any excess. And so I made sure it was thoroughly covered, tried to scrape off as much excess as I could, and then I placed it very carefully on the French doors and pushed them to be as aligned as possible. And I'm just going to clamp them into place. I did already have these clamps, so I didn't have to buy them. And I just clamped it very gently on both sides to hold it until it cured. Once it cured, I was able to remove it. Made sure I waited about a day, and then I took it off. I pressed to make sure it is very secure, but it still has some seams and gaps that when it's painted it'll be very obvious. So I wanted to fill it with some wood filler. You want to make sure it is wood filler, not wood putty, not plastic wood. Wood filler is the only one that's good to use on untreated wood, so on not finished wood. It starts out pink. It's said to use a spatula, so I tried first using a piece of scrap wood, and I did not like how that was spreading, so I switched to my finger because I'm wearing gloves. It doesn't say to wear gloves. However, I just like to make sure that I'm wearing proper PPE anytime that I'm working with something like this. So I spread it out over the handles in the back and that center crack. I also made sure I got every side that I could on the door frame, and then that little bit that was showing in the front. This will help it make it look like one solid piece of wood when I'm finished. And I'm applying it fairly liberally, but trying to make sure that it really gets into the cracks. And the wonderful thing with this wood putty is that when it cures, it will change colors to let you know that it cures. It only takes about 15 minutes. So now that it is fully cured, and then you can see it's no longer pink, everything is just the natural wood color. Now I'm going to cut off the little tabs. Make sure you're wearing eye gear and a respirator to make sure that you don't breathe in any sawdust or get anything in your eyes, but I just cut off all these little pieces that are extra. And then once those are cut off, I start sanding the whole thing down to make it smooth. That's the wonderful thing about wood filler, is that once it is cured, you can sand it, cut it just like normal wood, and stain it. So you can still see the lines right here, but once I have it painted, it will be very hard to tell the difference between the wood and the wood filler. So I make sure I sand it all smooth on every side and every cranny, making sure it just looks as good as possible. And then now you can see it's all smooth. And then I'm going to paint the base with black, with Apple Barrel black paint. I got this for about 50 cents on sale, which was wonderful. And I'm just going to go through and paint the entire door. Every cranny, trying to get in as much as possible, because this is the base coat for my door. And it takes a little bit of time, but I think it came out very nice. And as you can see, the wood filler doesn't look as different from the other parts of the door. It covers and coats very well and just becomes seamlessly one piece. And then once the black is dry, I'm using Elephant Gray from Apple Barrel to dry brush and distress a little bit. I put a little bit too much on. I'm not experienced in this at all, so this was just my first attempt. But I dry brushed and I wiped off the excess with a damp paper towel to help give it a more distressed, worn feel. I do want this to be a creepy Victorian house, so that is the vibe we're going for, and part of that is to make it look a little bit worn in. So this is the base level of distressing. Made sure to get the edges as well. And then once that gray dried, I moved on to the burnt umber from Apple Barrel. All of these paints I got on sale at Walmart for 50 cents, which was a great find. And then I'm distressing in with a little bit of the burnt umber to give it a little bit more of depth and bring a little bit of warmth back, and to make it help look a little bit dirtier. I think it just helps bring it out a little bit. And then once I was happy with that, I did bring back some more gray on some of the more worn parts, like the base of the door and where the handle's gonna go, to make it look like that has been used for years. And a little bit with the knocker as well, of just years of people using the knocker. And on the inside of the door as well. So now I've moved on to building my hardware for the door. I'm using 2 different beads, a very round bead and a tube bead, to make door handles. Took a little finagling. I'm using tacky glue to keep them together. So I do both of my door handles. and then I move on to my knocker, which is also 3 beads. I used 1 specialty bead and 2 small ones and a jump ring. And I liked it because it makes it look like a little knocker. And then now that the handles have dried, I'm adding them to the plate. I got this plate from a fabric tape measure. The metal end, it worked out perfectly. I was able to just take it off. I have extra. And that was, all of these were a little free because I already had these materials. But I thought that the metal right there looked really well, like a door frame handle. So I accidentally lost the film of me painting all the hardware, but I gave it a base coat of black and then distressed it with Inca Gold to give it that metallic look. I think it turned out really well. So it looks a little grimy, but it still looks like it was metal hardware. So I glued it into place with tacky glue, making sure to align the door knobs so it looked like it's just one piece going through the door. And that little hole gave a great little keyhole feel. And then I added with tacky glue the door knocker in the front of the door. And I did seal it with Mod Podge, the door, before gluing the extras on, but again, I lost the film to that accidentally. But I think it turned out really nicely, a nice little creepy, beautiful front door that's going to be big and overwhelming and a little bit give that scary vibe. Please let me know what you think. And I still have 5 rooms I need to plan for, so let me know what you think should go in my creepy Victorian house. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait to do the next one.